There I go. So thanks, Paulo, for joining into this demo session. The idea of this demo session is I have a machine, virtual machine. The name of the machine is demo. This machine has two SQL Server instances in it. Okay. So today we want to explore a scenario where we are going to baseline multiple instances, but all the instances are present on the same host. So I have this demo host where I have two SQL Server instances installed. Both of them are named instances. The first one is SQL 2019. The next one is SQL 2014. As they have the name, same are the versions of SQL Server. So if I connect it here, you can see demo /SQL 2019. It has the version number 15 dot something something. So it is 2019 version of SQL Server. Similarly, the other instance, demo /SQL 2014, it is SQL Server 2014 edition or version. Okay. We are talking about single host but multiple instances on the same host. Yeah, not high availability yet, but for high availability, it would be exactly same scenario. We will cover high availability also in upcoming sessions. Okay, but the scenario which we are covering here, it would be exactly same for high availability also. Okay, so just to summarize again, I have put that information in words here. I have a single host. The host name is demo.lab.com because it is joined to my domain network. On this host, I have two SQL Server instances. Okay, the instance names are demo SQL 2019, demo SQL 2014. Okay, if you remember in last session we discussed that there are some things which we capture at the operating system level, and rest of the metrics we capture from within SQL Server. The information which we capture from host level are perf_mon data, disk space information, and OS processes that we get from task manager. So these are OS processes. Yes. 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 Exactly. So this is the whole idea. Any matrix which happens to be at the host level, we want to collect that only once, and we have the option to save those metrics only on one instance out of the multiple instances. So on this demo host, all the host level metrics, I have the choice to either save them on this instance or this instance. My personal preference is always on the latest SQL Server version, so I choose SQL 2019 instance for keeping the host level metrics. Okay, so all these metrics I would be saving on demo SQL 2019. Like in our last demo, I am going to create a database which is not my usual. Usually I create databases with name DBA, but in this demo also I am going to create a database. I have created a database named admin utility, which is not my usual name. Before we start, I just want to show that we have nothing here. So under the table nodes, we don't have any tables. Similarly, on other instance also, under the table nodes, we don't have any tables here. And we don't have any jobs on either of the servers also, either of the SQL instances. So pretty much these are clean SQL Server installs. Now we are going to baseline them. Like in our last demo, I like to do deployments from my laptop. Okay, and workstation machine is something I treat as my laptop. So I am going to use the same workstation machine for deployment. Before I go there, I have connected to my inventory server, which is a SQL Server instance named SQLMonitor, and I run this query, getting all the results from dvo.instance details on inventory database, just to show you that these are the current SQL Server instances which are baselined with SQLMonitor. So we don't have demo SQL 2019, demo SQL 2014 SQL Server instances baselined yet. Once they are baselined, we will see two more rows, one for SQL 2019 demo, one for demo SQL 2014. Okay. So I think we are good to start. Let me copy the information which was here on demo server, which was kind of a summary, and I will copy that information on my workstation laptop or desktop machine. So here I have copied that information. Okay. To summarize again, the host which we are baselining is demo.lab.com. On that host, we have two SQL Server named instances, and we can save the host level metrics only on one instance. For that purpose, I am choosing demo SQL 2019. The database name would be admin utility. Good. So let's start. Like in previous sessions, I have already opened my wrapper script here in PowerShell ISE in administrative mode. So I will not go deep into that, how I did all that thing, since it's extensively covered in previous demos. But let's see what specific things we are doing here. So the first thing that we need to keep in mind is line number 8, parameter SQL instance to baseline. So we want to baseline the instance which will have the host level information. So we want to start with that instance. In my case, I prefer to go with demo SQL 2019. So there it is. SQL instance to baseline is demo SQL 2019. The name of the database on that demo SQL 2019 instance, which will store all the data, it is admin utility. Then, like we talked in earlier sessions, we have to download DBA tools from GitHub repository somewhere locally on the machine from where we are deploying this wrapper script. So this is a local path of DBA tools which I downloaded from GitHub. I have to provide that path here in parameter DBA tools folder path. Then I provide my inventory server, inventory database, and email ID of the people who should receive failure emails if my SQL agent job fails. Finally, I want to comment out any other things which initially, that is the recommended way, until you get familiar with the tool. Once you get familiar with the tool, definitely you will understand what parameters we need in what kind of scenario. But initially, I would always suggest to start with the basic parameters. Don't put anything extra here. So I am not putting anything fancy. Simply SQL instance to baseline, database on that instance, DBA tools local folder that would be copied on remote machine which is being baseline, inventory server name and inventory database name, and in the end, the email ID of the DBA group who should receive the SQL agent job failure mails. That's it. So let's start the execution here. Yes, Paulo, that is a good idea. Maybe in upcoming sessions I can write this down so that I will cover this kind of scenario. Okay, so now you can see we start from the top. We get 4 lines in yellow color saying that what instance we are baselining, what version of SQLMonitor we are using for baselining, and if there happens to be any bug in the script that you face, you need to visit this URL to read how to resolve those bugs. Then we have some PowerShell steps. These are the PowerShell steps in this SQLMonitor infra, and there are some steps which involve taking RDP or remote session, PS remote session of that machine which we are baselining. And in the end, we try to find out default values for different parameters, and then we spit all those parameter values out here as logs here. we proceed, if there is any kind of validation which do not succeed, then we throw errors. And idea here is this: anything which is in red color, we have to read that. So let's start reading these two red color text. The first text is saying, kindly provide value for parameters SQL instance as data destination, as the host has multiple database engine services, and perform data can be saved only on one SQL Server instance. So idea here is this: the host which we are baselining, demo host, has multiple instances of SQL Server, and it is mandatory to provide the name of the host specifically, which should be the data destination for OS level metrics or host level metrics. So how do we do that? Here it is mentioned that you have to provide the parameter value SQL instance as data destination. So if we scroll to the scroll down a little bit on line number 43, we can see this parameter SQL instance as data destination, and you have to provide the name of the instance which should be used as data destination for host level metrics or OS level metrics. So this information is correct. In my case, it should be demo /SQL 2019. So I will simply enable this parameter. The next parameter that we need to enable is in this second text message. That is, we have to ensure that confirm validation of multiple instances is set to true. This simply means that we understand what it means to be having multiple instances on same SQL Server host. So what it means is, we understand that OS level metrics can be saved only on one instance out of multiple instances if we have multiple instances on the same host. So yes, I do understand that, and I want to enable that parameter here. So once I enable those two, I can rerun this script one more time. So there we go. Again, we start from the top, and we got another error. So this time the error says that kindly provide Windows credential to create SQL Server agent proxy. This information, why do we need to create SQL agent proxy? Because the service account that is being used for demo /SQL 2019 SQL Server instance is a local service account. It do not have administrative privileges on the host. So the service account, which is lab /SQL, it is a local service account and does not have administrative privileges on the demo SQL Server host. So that's why we need to provide a Windows credential which has admin access on the demo SQL Server host, so that using the same credentials we can create SQL Server credentials and SQL Server proxy, agent proxy, and we can run our jobs, SQL Server agent jobs, which need to interact with PowerShell using that proxy account. So let's enable that parameter which is being shown here in the error. So it is saying that kindly provide Windows credential. So I will go back to the parameters, and here in line number 18 I can see Windows credential parameter. So I will enable that one. And for this parameter I am passing the variable value domain credential. So I will scroll up, and I can see in line number 1 I have a disabled line for domain credential. What I will do is, I will simply select this much of text. Before that, ensure that the username which is mentioned here, that should have administrative access on the host where the SQL Server instance is there, which you are baselining. So I am baselining demo SQL 2019. The host name is demo. So on demo host, this username should have administrative privileges. And now I have to provide the password for that once I run this line. So there I go. What I can do is I can validate one more time whether this variable has some value or not. So I simply select that variable name and run this small portion of the code, and there I can see that. So it is returning some value. That means this credential is perfectly, it is not empty in short. Password could be wrong, but if the password would be wrong, then we will get further error. But if password is right, everything would go just normal. So there we go. We have created a credential variable, and we are passing the same credential in parameter Windows credential. So let's start the execution one more time. And now we have proceeded, I guess. So now we have crossed step number 1. We are working on step number 2. This step number 2 might take a little bit time because we create all the tables in this step. Okay, it was pretty quick. Sure, Paulo. Thanks for pointing that out. So, just to confirm the same information which Paulo pointed out here is, uh, even though I provided the database name here in parameter, this does not mean that this script creates those databases. The database has to be existing before we run this script. So, before running this script, I went ahead and I manually created this admin utility database. Thanks, Paulo, for pointing that out. So we are on step number 27, which uh, implements partitioning on who is active table. So if the version of SQL Server supports partitioning depending on the version and edition, then we try to partition all the tables that we have in SQLMonitor infra. And right now that activity is happening for dbo.whoisactive-table, which stores the data from SP who is active. Yes, Paulo. But that step is already crossed. You pointed out the right thing, but what I did is in background I implemented the same solution in the SQLMonitor itself altogether. That's why this step number 23 is already crossed. Yes. So right now we are on different step. This is who is active. The thing which we are talking about is SP split index, which is already done. Uh, why it is taking time? Because it is implementing partitioning. No, we cannot do this because it is implementing partitioning right now. So here it is saying it does not exist. Let me check why it does not exist. There we go. Not SQLMonitor. I have to connect to demo SQL 2019. Demo SQL 2019 instance. And if I come here, oh, all the jobs are failing. That is good thing. We'll fix them here. Where is my who is active? Who is active is also failing. What error do we get here? Oh shit. Named pipe things. Yes. Sure, sure. So there we go. Hmm. So yep. Once again. So there we go. It seems to be okay. Yeah, yeah. It seems to be okay, I think. Only thing is it was disabled in state, I think. Okay, okay. In, yeah, I will leave it as it is. Let's see. Let's see. I will leave it as it is for now. Uh, mm, so, though I'm not that big of, I don't have that big of understanding regarding the named file, but I want to leave it default first. Uh, yeah. So leave this here. Who is active? Okay. First thing first. Yes. No, no. So we need to reboot the services. Let this script fail. Okay, that script succeeded, I think. Uh, okay, this particular step failed, but apart from that, everything succeeded. So now I can restart those services, and then we will try this one more time. Yeah. No, not exactly. So we are not partitioning the entire database. We are only partitioning the table which have been created in SQL Monitor infra. And those tables, yeah, and those tables just got created. So they would not have any data. So partitioning would succeed right away. The problem in our case is the this who is active table was not created because job is failing. So we rebooted this service. Let me do the same thing for 2014 also, and then we will try to run that job one more time. So let's run this. Okay, it is already running. Let me see the history. Okay, history. Otherwise, I will copy the code here. We are still getting the same error, I guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. So this thing definitely did not work. So we will try the other method which you are saying. So we go to protocols, name pipes, and all together everything or just this much. Is this correct? So how would you know that we have two different instances? Okay, so let's try that first. Uh, oh no, not service. Sorry. This is my first time with this error. That's good that you have faced it. So there we go. That has succeeded. What about other ones? Let me run all of them. This one also running fine. Way to extract information. Job. This also went successful. X event. Partition maintenance. And pulse table. Pretty much in short, all the jobs are running fine, I guess. Let's finish the step which failed. Okay. So this is step number 27. I think I need to implement this thing because here it is saying that table does not exist. Still we did not throw any error here. So I will implement this error handling, but step number 27 failed here. So what I want to do is I want to rerun this baselining for just step number 27. So there are two parameters. The first parameter says at what step I want to start the execution and at what step I want to stop the execution. This time I want to utilize these two parameters. So I want to start with this step number 27 and I want to end with that step altogether. I don't want to proceed for any other steps. So I will rerun this code with that one step only. So now it is trying to implement the partitioning on who is active. What we can do is we can run who is active store proc altogether. exec st who is active, and we should see our script there. I think it is this one, but let me rerun it again. No, it is not this one. It is coming from SSMS screen. So I think that completed in short. Yeah, that completed already. Yeah. So yeah, we have baselined the first SQL Server instance on multi-instance host. Let's visualize the same thing on our dashboard. Yes, yes, yes. No, we don't store that information. What was the last step that was carried out? We don't store that information. But before making any change, we already detect whether the change is already present or not. So even if I do not provide this thing, okay, I rerun this script altogether from scratch, it will keep running, okay, only for the SQL agent jobs, especially the PowerShell jobs, it will fail. Rest of the jobs will simply succeed. Okay, so yeah, that's how it is built right now. Hmm. Yes, yes, yes. So in case of new version, depending on what new feature has been deployed, you want to only execute those steps. Okay. So what you can do is you can skip all other steps except those two. You can remove. Say that 5 steps are extra added. You simply skip everything and remove only those 5 steps from skip parameter. That's all. Hmm. Yes. No, no, no. We don't modify the existing tables like that. So what it will do is if that column is getting used anywhere, say that I modified the structure of a table, okay, and the earlier deployment that you had in your environment that did not have that new table which we need, then the script will fail at that step where we need that column. So what we need to do is we need to go to the top, and here I have mentioned a URL. Okay, in the top we have mentioned a URL. You simply need to go to that URL, and that URL has all the common bugs that we might get. For example, in this latest release, we added some columns like these. We added 3 columns in this dbo.instance details table. So your deployment might fail And in that case, you have to manually run these scripts, these three T-SQL statements to add those columns manually, and then rerun the upgrade step. So let's go back there. We have already baselined one instance of that demo host. So what we were doing is we were going to see that from our dashboards. Let me close all existing dashboards that I have opened here. Okay, let me refresh my SQL Server Grafana folder. There we are. The first thing I want to do is I want to check in my all server dashboards, and in all server dashboards I can see that server appearing here in this list. That means that server has been baselined. Then I can go to my second dashboard, which is monitoring live distributed, and if the server is appearing in this, that means everything is just fine. So there I go, I open that dashboard, I click on this drop down of the server list, and the newly baselined demo SQL 2019 instance is appearing here. So I select that, and I can see all the values here. So it is SQL 2019 developer edition that we can see here. And apart from these two rows, I also want to validate this trend of CPU utilization. That gives me an idea that even the performance data collection is working. So here we can see we are getting the data for CPU utilization. That means data collection of performance counter, host level information are also working. So yeah, we have baselined one instance out of two instances which are present on demo host. Now let's baseline the next instance. So before we go into the next instance, remember that in this original deployment, when we deployed SQLMonitor for the first SQL Server instance, we got these two outputs here. In these two outputs, in these two information, I am exposing what steps we have which run PowerShell code in background, and in this one we are saying what steps are there in which we need to RDP the remote machine to copy something or to do something which happens to be at the operating system level. Now since host level information is already getting captured and being saved into instance demo SQL 2019, for the next instance we don't need to perform these steps. We don't want to perform any PowerShell job steps. We don't want to perform any RDP session steps. So we don't want to perform these steps in short for the next instance. So what I'm going to do is, let's start replacing the things. I want to baseline my 2014 instance on the same host. Okay. The database again is same. Yes. Yes, Paulo. So since on the same host, one instance is already baselined. That instance is already the data destination for host level metrics. So now we want to skip any host level data collection again. So what I will do is I will provide the same basic things which I provided last time while baselining demo SQL 2019. I will provide almost same information like the database name, DBA tools folder, inventory server name, inventory database name, DBA email ID, Windows credentials. Okay, but here is something which we need to make sure that it is correct. So since demo SQL 2019 is the destination for host level metrics, I need to keep this value as it is, even though we are baselining 2014 instance of SQL Server. Okay, so even though we are baselining demo /SQL 2019 instance, still the host level metrics are getting saved into demo SQL 2019. So this parameter value should be demo SQL 2019. This is one difference that we need to keep in mind. Second thing is, as we talked about, we want to skip all the PowerShell steps and all the RDP steps. So there are parameters to skip PowerShell steps and RDP steps. So line number 38 has a parameter which says skip PowerShell job. So in this, using this parameter, I will skip all the PowerShell jobs which collect OS level metrics. Similarly, using this parameter of line number 37, skip RDP session steps, I will skip all the steps which take RDP of that machine or host and do some kind of operating system level task. So I want to skip all these two steps for the next instance on the same host. So after enabling these two and making sure that we have right value for this parameter, which should be the instance where we are saving the host level metrics, we are good to start the deployment for demo SQL 2014 instance. So I'm going to start the execution here. There we go. So some key points which I want to point out here. Let me scroll to the top. The baselining has finished for SQL 2014 instance also. Some key points here are like this. Note down the instance name that we are baselining. So we are baselining SQL 2014 instance. The next thing which I want to point out is this part. Here it is saying total number of steps to execute. Earlier we executed around 33 steps. But for the next instance where we are skipping operating system level steps, okay, we are skipping PowerShell jobs steps. If we minus those steps, then the remaining steps that we have are 25. So in short, for the next instance, we are only executing a total of 25 steps. Rest of the script looks the same as we baselined with the earlier instance. So we try to find out all the basic information by querying the SQL Server. We try to find out the domain name, host name, SQL Server service account, whether the service account has administrative privileges and all those things. We try to fetch what addition it is, whether that addition supports compression or not, whether that addition supports partitioning or not. All those things we find out the same way. And then we start executing everything. So we just skipped anything which creates PowerShell jobs, anything which takes RDP of that host. We skipped these two kinds of steps, that's all. And we baselined our SQL 2014 instance. In the end, there are some steps which also need pointing out. So we have this step number 33. Step number 32 and step number 33, which are kind of important in this case. So since our SQL 2019 instance is not having the data of host level metrics, rather the host level metrics are present on demo SQL 2019, not on SQL 2014. In order to make the access of those host level metrics from SQL 2014 instance seamlessly, what we are doing is we are creating a linked server for host level metrics destination instance on the instance which we just baselined. So we just baselined 2014 instance. On 2014 instance, we created a linked server for the SQL instance which is having the host level metrics. This is what this step number 32 is all about. Step number 33 is using that linked server which we created for the host level metrics data destination. We updated the views so that our views would reflect the data from those linked servers altogether. So now, just to see whether everything worked fine or not, let's go to dashboard, and this time we will refresh it one more time. We will choose our demo SQL 2014 instance from drop down and refresh this window. So we can see all the live metrics. The first two rows always represent the live metrics. So the live metrics we are getting properly. Then let's moment of truth is whether we are getting the host level metrics like performance counters, OS processes, those kinds of information, whether we are getting for the name for this instance. We can find out that information from this third row panel, which is CPU utilization. So here we can see we are getting the CPU utilization even for demo SQL 2014 instance, even though the host level metrics are not being saved on demo SQL 2014. So how this is possible? Because we are saving the data on SQL 2019, but we are creating a linked server referring that SQL 2019 on our SQL 2014 instance, and then we are using that link server in views, and this information is coming from those views. So I hope it is not that much complex, but in terms of deployment, it is pretty easy once you get used to this kind of deployment. So yeah, this is how it looks like when you have multiple instances on the same host and you want to deploy this SQLMonitor up there. Paulo, you already are familiar with this tool, so you want to add anything? Awesome. Mm-hmm. Oh no, so version 2 is my target version. Right now we are still working on version 1 point. Okay, so here whenever I do, like you said earlier, initially you suggested that we use the first digit for major version, right? Where is it? Yeah, come on, man. Yeah. So you suggested that we use the first digit in that version number for major. So that I am following the same architecture here. This first number always represents the major version. This is some kind of big fixes. Okay, so sub major version, and this is very minor version. So yes, so little bug fixes. So right now I am on 1.1.3 in short. The version which is released on GitHub, that one is 1. What is that? 1.1.0. So we have done three bug fixes in short. So that's why we have 1.1.3 right now. Yeah. So yeah, just to show how it looked like, the link server and all those things. So let me go to our SQL 2014 instance. And what I was explaining is, if we go to the link server, there we can see that we have created a link server for our 2019 instance, which is the destination for host level metrics. So we create a link server for the data destination on each and every other named instance on the same host. Okay, and then using this link server, we are creating views. So if I go to our database where we are keeping all the metrics, and I expand the views, here I can see some views which are getting used on Grafana dashboard. So if I script out this particular view, we can see here in this view we are using that SQL Server instance, which happens to be the data destination for host level metrics. So this is how the things happen in background. The same method we will use for active-active clustering, we will use for availability groups, we will use for active-passive clustering. Okay, so this will work just fine for any kind of HADR combination. I have tested it thoroughly. Only thing is, in some of the rare cases, we have to manually modify these views. That is the only thing that we have to do sometimes. Uh, no, Paulo. We want to expand it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's why I requested you, and I think you are already doing it. You already created it. This particular discussion, so we can jot down. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Please, please go ahead and create put those ideas here in discussion, so that we can connect and then we can design the layout how we want to accomplish that. But yeah, we want to make this as useful as possible so that we don't need to connect to SQL Server each and every time whenever somebody asks us some question. We don't want to connect to SQL Server, run queries, to give them information. Cool. As requested earlier, please do subscribe and like the video recordings and share with friends and community so that more and more people can be aware about this tool since it's open source, free to use, without so they can deploy it in their environments. And best part is, I use this tool for my performance tuning practice. So you can deploy this in your lab environment or personal laptop or desktop. Exactly. Oh wow, there is a portable version also. Okay, I will test that also then. Maybe I can provide a portable version altogether on GitHub. Yeah, so that people don't even need to install, right? Cool, cool, Paulo. Awesome. Thank you, Paulo. Thank you so much. Bye, Paulo. Thank you. Thanks for joining me.